The forest is silent. Snow falls through skeletal branches. December cold bites through wool and leather. A column of American trucks sits motionless on the road. Engines ticking as they cool. No guards, no sentries, just vehicles. Hundreds of them, abandoned in the chaos of retreat. Major Jochen Peiper walks between them, his boots crunching frozen ground. Behind him, SS Panzer crews emerge from the tree line, weapons ready, expecting resistance. There is none. He stops at the first fuel depot. Canvas tarps cover steel drums. He pulls one aside. Gasoline. His gloved hand traces the American markings. The smell is sharp in the cold air. A lieutenant appears at his shoulder, breathless. "Sir, the entire depot. It's intact." Peiper doesn't respond. His eyes move across the valley. More trucks, more drums, more fuel than his entire Kampfgruppe has seen in months. 50,000 gallons, maybe more. The offensive was supposed to last 8 days. They'd been given enough fuel for maybe 3. High Command had promised captured supplies would carry them the rest of the way. Now he's looking at those supplies, and he realizes something that makes his stomach turn. They're winning, and it doesn't matter. Autumn 1944, Germany is dying. Not the dramatic death of newsreels, the slow death of logistics, of empty fuel depots and silent factories, of tanks that can't move and planes that can't fly. In the Ardennes forest, American units settle into winter positions. The sector is quiet. Green troops rotate in for seasoning. Veterans rest after brutal fighting further north. The forest is considered a backwater, a place where nothing happens. Intelligence reports mention German movement, troop concentrations, radio traffic. Officers dismiss it as defensive repositioning. The Wehrmacht is finished. Everyone knows it. They're wrong. In hidden assembly areas east of the German border, 3 entire armies gather. 28 divisions, 2,000 tanks and assault guns, 250,000 men. Hitler's last offensive. The plan is insane. Punch through the Ardennes, split the Allied armies, capture Antwerp, force a negotiated peace. It requires speed, surprise, and fuel. Especially fuel. The Panzer divisions have enough for maybe 100 kilometers. After that, they'll need captured American supplies. Entire routes are planned around suspected fuel depots. The offensive lives or dies on seizing enemy gasoline. Commander of Panzer Division Leibstandarte, SS Obersturmbannführer Jochen Peiper, receives his orders on December 14th. His Kampfgruppe, battle group, will spearhead the breakthrough. Fast, deep. Don't stop for anything. His staff does the math. The fuel allocation won't get them to the Meuse River, won't even get them halfway. "We'll capture what we need," the answer comes from above. Peiper knows what that means. The offensive is built on hope, on the assumption that American supply dumps will be intact, undefended, ready to seize. It's a plan that depends on enemy incompetence. He prepares anyway. On the night of December 15th, German soldiers move into final positions. Artillery pieces, carefully hidden for weeks, are uncovered and loaded. Tank crews perform final maintenance in the dark. Infantry huddle in foxholes, stamping feet against the cold. The Americans sleep. Some play cards, some write letters, a few stand guard, peering into a dark forest that reveals nothing. The night is quiet except for wind through bare trees. At 5:30 hours on December 16th, the forest explodes. 2,000 German guns fire simultaneously. The barrage walks across American positions with mathematical precision. Shells tear through command posts. Communications go dead. Men die in their sleeping bags. For 90 minutes, the bombardment continues. Then silence. Then engines. The fog is thick enough to touch. It rolls through the Ardennes valleys like something alive. Visibility drops to meters. American artillery observers can't see targets. Allied aircraft can't fly. The weather has picked sides. Out of the fog come the Germans. Panzer grenadiers move in loose formations, weapons ready. Behind them, the first tanks, Panzer IVs, Panthers, the heavy Tigers rolling slowly, conserving fuel. The rumble of engines echoes between trees, making it impossible to tell where attacks are coming from. American positions collapse in minutes or hold for hours. There's no pattern. Green units break immediately. Some veteran outfits fight until overrun. Radio calls flood command networks. Under attack. Heavy armour. We need... Then static. Peiper's Kampfgruppe hits the Losheim Gap at 0700. The initial resistance is light. A few roadblocks, scattered rifle companies. His Panther tanks brush them aside. Speed is everything. The orders are clear. Don't stop to clear resistance. Drive deep. cause chaos. Behind the spearhead, German infantry will mop up. Peiper's job is to reach the Meuse bridges before the Americans realise what's happening. By noon, his column is 10 kilometres deep. The roads are narrow, winding, bordered by thick forest. Progress is slower than planned. Fuel gauges drop. The Panthers are thirsty. The Tigers worse. They pass their first American supply dump at Bulge. Peiper's men secure it quickly. Ammunition, medical supplies, food, no fuel. The column pushes on. At Schoppen, they hit serious resistance. American engineers have blown the bridge. Tank destroyers fire from concealed positions. The fight takes 2 hours. The column loses time and fuel. By evening of the first day, Peiper has advanced 20 kilometres. Good progress. Not good enough. The fuel situation is becoming critical. Some vehicles are already running on fumes. Then the reports come in. A major fuel depot. Intact. Lightly defended. Stavelot. Peiper turns his column south. December 17th, 0600 hours. The town of Stavelot sits in a valley where the Meuse River cuts through the hills. Stone buildings, a narrow bridge, and on the hills south of town, the American fuel dump. 3 million gallons of gasoline stored in 5-gallon jerry cans and 50-gallon drums. Peiper's lead elements approach before dawn. The Americans are aware something is wrong. Refugees from the east have been flooding through all night, but they don't know German armour is this close. The attack is swift. Panzer grenadiers infiltrate the town under cover of darkness. By the time American defenders realise what's happening, German tanks are already crossing the bridge. The engineer unit assigned to demolish it fumbles the charges. The bridge stays intact. Panzers roll across. By 0800, Stavelot is in German hands, but the fuel depot is on fire. American engineers, falling back in the chaos, managed to set off demolition charges. Not all of them worked properly. Maybe a third of the dump is burning, black smoke rising in thick columns. The rest sits intact, thousands of cans stacked on wooden pallets. Peiper's men secure the site. Guards are posted. Crews begin the process of refueling. This is what they came for. This is what the entire offensive depends on. Then someone discovers the problem. The fuel is gasoline, high-octane aviation fuel and standard vehicle gasoline, American specifications. German tanks run on diesel. The engines are completely different. Pouring gasoline into a diesel tank doesn't just fail to work, it destroys the engine. The fuel they desperately need is useless to them. Peiper stares at the dump. Thousands of gallons. Enough to keep his Kampfgruppe running for days. Unusable. His half-tracks can take it, his trucks. But the tanks, the Panthers and Tigers that form his spearhead, can't touch it. Some commanders might have panicked. Peiper is a veteran of the Eastern Front. He adapts. Take everything the wheeled vehicles can carry. Load it on the trucks. Keep moving. His half-tracks and support vehicles refuel. It buys time. But the Panzers are still hungry. And there's another problem emerging. The Americans are reacting. By December 18th, the Allied command understands what's happening. This isn't a local counterattack. It's a major offensive. Reserves are rushed forward. Engineers blow bridges. Supply dumps too far forward are destroyed before the Germans can reach them. Peiper's Kampfgruppe is now deep behind American lines, but it's also alone. The following units have been slowed by resistance and terrible roads. The spearhead is cut off from supply. At Trois Ponts, engineers blow the bridge seconds before Peiper's lead tank reaches it. He turns north. At Habiemont, another blown bridge. His route options are narrowing. The column is strung out over kilometres. Narrow roads and thick forest make it impossible to concentrate forces. American fighter bombers appear whenever the weather clears. Supplies run low, and the fuel situation is critical. They capture another American dump at La Glaise. Again gasoline. Again useless for the tanks. Peiper's Panthers are being abandoned as they run dry. Crews set demolition charges and move on in half-tracks. By December 19th, the Kampfgruppe is stalled at Stoumont. They're barely 50 kilometres from their start line. The Meuse bridges, the objective, are still 70 kilometres away. Unreachable. American forces are closing in from three sides. Artillery pounds German positions constantly. Supplies are gone. Ammunition is running low. The fuel that remains won't move the column more than a few kilometres. Peiper requests permission to withdraw. The answer is no. Hold position. Relief is coming. It isn't. On December 23rd, the weather clears. American aircraft fill the sky. P-47 Thunderbolts strafe the column. German vehicles burn. The survivors huddle in buildings, waiting for darkness. That night, Peiper makes the decision. They're abandoning the vehicles. All of them. The Kampfgruppe will withdraw on foot through the forest, carrying only weapons and wounded. The panthers sit silent in the village square. The tigers are camouflaged in barns. Demolition charges are set on everything that can't be carried. At 0200 on December 24th, 800 men slip into the forest. Behind them, Stoumont erupts in explosions as the vehicles detonate. The sound echoes across the valley. They walk for 2 nights, no food, no rest, carrying wounded on improvised stretchers. When they finally reach German lines on December 25th, fewer than 800 men remain of the original 5,000. The spearhead is destroyed. The offensive continues for another month. Other units push forward, achieve local successes, run out of fuel and stall. By January 1945, German forces are back where they started. The Ardennes is American again. The cost is staggering. 80,000 American casualties, 10,000 killed, but Germany loses more than men. The offensive consumes the Wehrmacht's last mobile reserves. Tanks that could have defended the Rhine are burning hulks in Belgian forests. Fuel that might have powered a defensive stand is gone. The mathematics of the offensive were always impossible. German quartermaster reports before the attack calculated fuel requirements at 5 million gallons minimum. They had 1 million. The plan assumed capturing 4 million gallons from American stocks. They captured some. Stavelot, Bulge, smaller dumps scattered across the breakthrough zone. But it's the wrong fuel. The incompatibility of diesel and gasoline engines, a basic logistics fact, wasn't properly considered in the planning. Even if every American fuel depot had fallen intact, even if the Germans had seized 10 million gallons, it wouldn't have mattered. You can't run a Panther on aviation gasoline. The offensive was lost before it began, not through courage or tactics, but through logistics, through the mundane reality that modern warfare runs on supply chains and fuel compatibility. Peiper survives the war. At his trial for war crimes committed during the offensive, prosecutors focus on massacres of prisoners and civilians. The operational failure, the fuel that couldn't be used, is barely mentioned. It's not dramatic enough for a war crimes tribunal. The Stavelot fuel dump, partially burned but mostly intact, falls back into American hands on December 20th. Engineers assess the damage. Roughly 2 million gallons remain usable. It's redistributed to Allied units within days. The dump's coordinates were marked on German maps before the offensive. Intelligence had confirmed its existence and approximate size. Planning documents show it was calculated into fuel projections for the breakthrough. The detail they missed, what type of fuel it contained. In the village of Stoumont, Belgian civilians return to find the destroyed German vehicles. Burned out Panthers sit in the snow, Tigers with their turrets blown off by demolition charges. The cleanup takes months. Local farmers find abandoned German equipment scattered through the forest. Jerry cans, ammunition, personal items dropped by men fleeing on foot. Some of the jerry cans still contain fuel, gasoline, captured from American dumps, useless to the men who took it. The historical irony is sharp. The German offensive was named Unternehmen Wacht am Rhein, Watch on the Rhine. The goal was to buy time, to prevent Allied armies from crossing into Germany itself. It accomplished the opposite. By destroying Germany's last reserves in a failed gamble, it guaranteed the Rhine would fall within months, Berlin within 4. Modern historians calculate that if the fuel and equipment committed to the Ardennes had been used defensively, Germany might have prolonged the war by weeks, maybe months, not changed the outcome. That was already determined, but delayed it. Instead, the offensive collapsed in 10 days. The spearhead, starving for fuel, destroyed itself rather than surrender. The tanks that might have defended German cities were blown apart by their own crews in a Belgian village, all for fuel they couldn't use. In military colleges today, the Ardennes offensive is studied as a masterpiece of surprise and tactical aggression, but logistics instructors use it for a different lesson. They show the fuel calculations, the supply projections, the incompatibility problem. They ask, what's the point of capturing supplies you can't use? The question has no good answer. Peiper's column advanced 65 kilometers in 8 days. The Meuse bridges, the objective, were 120 kilometers from the start line. Even with perfect conditions, with every American fuel dump captured intact, the mathematics didn't work. The Panthers needed diesel. The Americans stored gasoline. The planning staff knew both facts. They proceeded anyway. Hope is not a logistics strategy. In the snow-covered forests of the Ardennes, the burned-out vehicles remain as reminders, not of courage or sacrifice, but of arithmetic, of the cold calculation that modern war is won by supply officers, not spearhead commanders. The fuel depot at Stavelot still exists, modern buildings now, a parking lot where stacks of jerry cans once sat. Nothing marks it as the site where 50,000 gallons of captured fuel proved worthless. The battle is remembered for other things: encircled paratroopers at Bastogne, the massacre at Normandy, the desperate winter fighting. But the offensive ended where logistics said it would: out of fuel, out of time, out of options. Peiper, years later in a rare interview, was asked about the campaign, about the decision-making, about whether he knew the offensive would fail. "We knew the fuel situation before we started," he said. "We started anyway." The interviewer asked why. Peiper looked away. Orders. The word sits heavy. An explanation and an indictment. The machinery of war, grinding forward on hope and calculation, consuming men and metal and the last reserves of a dying state, for 50,000 gallons of fuel that couldn't burn in German engines anyway. The mathematics were clear from the beginning. The outcome was written in logistics reports and fuel consumption charts, not in courage or cowardice, but in the mundane reality that tanks need the right type of fuel to run. Everything else is just noise. The snow still falls in the Ardennes each December. The forests are quiet. The roads are paved now, the bridges rebuilt. Nothing remains of the desperate gamble except silence. And the lesson, taught in military academies to officers who will never meet in battle: hope is not a plan, capture is not supply, fuel in the wrong tanks is the same as no fuel at all. The German column that was supposed to reach the Meuse in 2 days died in 8, not from American resistance, though that was fierce, not from Allied air power, though that was decisive, from arithmetic, from the cold mathematics of modern war. The engines fell silent one by one, the crews walked home through the snow, the offensive collapsed under its own weight, and in a Belgian fuel depot, thousands of gallons of gasoline sat unused, the fuel that was supposed to win a battle. The fuel that couldn't, the fuel that ended everything.